Have you heard the news? The internet is buzzing with headlines claiming tiny homes will be banned by 2026. People are panicking, thinking their dream of simple, affordable living is about to be crushed. But is this really the end of the tiny house movement? Today, we're cutting through the noise to find out what's actually happening. Is this a full-on ban, or is there more to the story? Stick around, because the truth might surprise you. First, let's get straight to the source of this controversy. It all stems from updates to something called the International Residential Code, or IRC. The IRC is a model building code that many local governments adopt to set standards for home construction. The 2026 update introduces new, stricter energy efficiency requirements for all new residential buildings. These changes are aimed at making homes more sustainable and reducing their carbon footprint, which sounds good on paper, right? But here's where the problem comes in for tiny homes. The new rules require specific levels of insulation, high-performance windows, and energy-efficient heating and cooling systems. For a standard-sized house, meeting these requirements is relatively straightforward. But for a tiny home, which has a much smaller surface area and volume, it's a whole different ballgame. The challenge is that the very nature of a tiny home, its small, compact design makes it incredibly difficult and expensive to fit all this new technology in. The walls are thin, so there's less space for thick insulation. The overall cost to meet these high-end energy standards could skyrocket, pushing the price of a tiny home far beyond the reach of those seeking affordability. So, it's not an outright ban in the legal sense, but for many, it feels like one. If you can't build a tiny home affordably, is the option really still there? Now, let's talk about the two sides of this debate. On one hand, you have the proponents of the new energy codes. They argue that every new home, regardless of its size, should be as energy efficient as possible to combat climate change. They believe uniform standards are essential for safety, sustainability, and ensuring that all housing meets a certain quality baseline. From their perspective, making exceptions for tiny homes could create a loophole that undermines the entire goal of creating a greener building industry. They see it as a necessary step forward for the environment. They argue that these one-size-fits-all regulations completely miss the point of tiny living. They're proposing alternative paths to compliance specifically for small structures, arguing that efficiency should be measured proportionally, not by the same rigid standards as massive houses. Some are exploring innovative new materials and building techniques to meet the standards without breaking the bank. At the local level, some communities might choose not to adopt the strictest parts of the 2026 IRC, or might create their own local ordinances that are more favorable to tiny homes. This is a developing story, and the fight is far from over. In conclusion, the claim that tiny homes are being banned in 2026 is an oversight. It's some more of a regulatory hurdle, a very significant one that threatens the affordability and accessibility that define the movement. The core issue is whether a single set of rules can apply to every type of home, big or small. The next few years will be critical as communities and builders navigate these new challenges. It's a classic case of good intentions having potentially unintended consequences. What do you think? Are these new energy codes a necessary step for the environment, or are they an unfair burden on the tiny home movement? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the topics that matter to you. See you next time.